You've just started podcast number 143. Do you want to win the battle with your construction project? If you do, it mostly comes down to planning. Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today's Monday, and it really should just be a wonderful day. I know it's been a long Thanksgiving, but if you have any dread about going back to work, then we need to think about that. But if you have come to work in the morning today, ready to go to work, just guns a-blazing, ready to go, then you are exactly in the right role, in the right company, wherever you belong today, this Monday morning. I really hope you have a fantastic experience and that you can accentuate the rest of the week with the joy that you had over the weekend with Thanksgiving. So today we're going to talk about pre-construction and the pre-construction steps that we can take to really prepare for a remarkable job. Today I'm not going to talk about the integrated project delivery methods. I'm not going to talk about most of the, design, bid, build, CM at risk delivery methods specifically. But from a builder standpoint, what are some of the things that from a preparation, from a plan, from a planning standpoint, what are some of the things that we can do to go really set ourselves up for success? Before I begin, I do want to share just a brief little topic here. My mind has really been focused on the morning routine. And and this is the second time I've mentioned this, I'm sure, but the morning routine has really been on my mind lately because it allows us to create focus. And focus is the key to success. So if we have bad behaviors, if we have bad moods, if we have patterns, and anything that takes us out of clarity and context, meaning where we don't know exactly what we want, exactly what we're doing, and exactly how we're doing it, that's going to muddle our days. And if you take the techniques that I mentioned in that podcast, specifically box breathing, and implement that in the morning, then you can train your mind to stop being a monkey mind, meaning grabbing at all these different random things that aren't allowing you to focus, and bring it back to where you are absolutely 100% in control and the executive center in your mind is functioning to make sure that it's controlling your behavior, that you are flexible, and that you have all of the cognitive skills that you need to get through the day, right? So the morning routine is key. If you don't have a morning routine, I highly recommend you get one. Now is not a bad time. Also, the first of the year is coming up for New Year's resolutions. We really, really need to make sure that we have something that makes us focus, allows us to focus, and keeps us in focus. When you do box breathing and you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, and then hold it, you are counting. And preferably, you are visualizing the numbers like Mark Divine says in his book, Unbeatable Mind. And by doing that and calming yourself and breathing, you're bringing your mind from all of these random thoughts to looking at, focusing on, and counting those numbers. And as you're breathing, you're aligning your mind with the physical actions in your body. It's fantastic, for a lack of a better way to say it, for strengthening that muscle. It's not a muscle, but strengthening that muscle, which is your executive center, to keep your focus, to give you clarity and allow you to be flexible and nimble throughout the day, but also have your sights set on exactly what you want and how you're going to do it. So box breathing, morning routine, I see that over and over. I encourage superintendents, project managers, field engineers, foremen, anybody in construction to start a to-do list, to begin communicating, to start to gain these back to basics habits, to set alarms, to time block their time, to use their technology. But how are we going to discipline ourselves to actually do those things if we don't have the mental discipline through something like box breathing, through something like meditation, through something like mental focus that keeps us sharp and able to remember to trigger those systems, to remember to put something on our to-do list, to remember to set an alarm, to remember to time block something, to remember to communicate. You get my point. We really need to make sure our minds are functioning well and that our executive centers are functioning well and keeping us in control. and making sure that we are able to take in multi-sensory inputs and to make sure that we are able to be flexible. So I really just want to hit home with that. If you don't have a strong executive center, if you've ever been, diagnosed with attention deficit disorder or something else like that, you might have a different situation where you need clinical help, or you need therapy, or you might just stay with the regimen that you already have. But if you haven't specifically been diagnosed with something, try box breathing, try a morning routine, whatever person you want to follow, whether it's Dean Graziosi or Tony Robbins or Garrett Gunderson or any of the greats that have a morning routine, please go get yourself one, because it will trigger you to then follow your disciplines, and your disciplines will then bring your success and your focus throughout the day. So let me just say one time before we get this podcast going, what I'm excited about right now are, again, and I've said this once before, are coaching calls. I absolutely love coaching calls. I love providing coaching. I love the clarity that comes from those programs, and I love getting coaching calls myself. I told you a while back that a man named Justice, and if you ever need help and want his name as a recommendation or his LinkedIn profile, please let me know. But he has done some coaching with me, and it's been absolutely fantastic, because everybody needs a counselor. I remember Gordon B. Hinckley one time saying, nobody should go anywhere on an assignment or anywhere without a counselor. Nobody should be without a counselor. And he wasn't saying, a subservient number two man or woman. What he was saying is somebody that you can counsel with, somebody that can help coach you, somebody that can listen to you, somebody that can see what you're not seeing because you can't see the forest through the trees. And I've been impressed again and again about how effective that can be. So once you find your core truth, once you find your sole purpose, you can find your direction and really make great leaps and bounds, great strides towards what you want in life. Get yourself a counselor, get yourself a coach, make sure that you're headed in the proper direction. So let me give you a little bit of feedback from our listeners. I got introduced to your podcast by a colleague of mine. I just want to say I enjoy listening and learning. Thank you, sir. I wanted to introduce a topic, if possible. How is the construction industry changing? And I want to address this right now. I think that there is a key concept. I think it's a concept. There's a key concept that we need to pay attention to and really mimic or focus on in our industry right now. And that is the concept of anchor projects. I'm pretty sure that we've always had this, but it's a trend that we have right now that we really need to pay attention to, especially knowing that we have the technology and the communication resources and the finances to go do whatever we need to do. Here's what I'm talking about in our industry. I see more and more nowadays construction projects that are anchor projects, meaning these are projects that there might be an IPD project or a lean project. There might be a mega project. Some of them are in California. Some of them are spread out all throughout the industry that are absolutely over the top fantastic. They have an integrated team and they are implementing lean as far as they can possibly take it. And it's paying dividends to the point that most operations on their project are remarkable. You will find project managers and superintendents and project teams that can talk to you about just-in-time deliveries, that can talk to you about prefabrication, they can talk to you about integration, they can talk to you about lean, they can talk to you about operational control, they can talk to you about pull planning and all of these other wonderful things. They can talk to you about Scrum. And these are typically the folks that we see presenting at LCI or doing a webinar or, being at a design build conference or talking about integrated project delivery or doing podcast interviews. These folks are experiencing success. And in the new book, Elevating Construction Superintendents, which is actually out on Kindle now, I need to finish proofing it, so don't go there yet. Let's wait till Wednesday. But out on Kindle now, in my book, I talk about the fact that superintendents that do not learn from positive project experiences are really a liability because they achieve, they gain, they adopt this kind of learned hopelessness. And what we need to do in our industry, when we have a developer that shortcuts us for costs, or we have a corn shell building, or we have, a contract delivery method that isn't proper. We're still doing design, bid, build projects out there, or we have unsuccessful projects, or we have dysfunctional project teams. We need to stop giving those projects most of our time. Stop sending our best people there. We need to be sending our best people to our model anchor projects where they know what they're doing. They've figured out the success formula, and where we start modeling that and copying it. I know the project managers and supers that are on these anchor projects can take it from one job to another. What we need to be doing is making sure that not only does the project team do that, but we are visiting and touring those projects. So a trend that I'm seeing is not only the sharing of that information and that success, but people reaching out to visit some of these anchor projects, touring these projects, going and videotaping some of these projects, watching lean videos, checking out YouTube links, checking out LinkedIn links, checking out Facebook links, going to these seminars, and actually, taking these field walks. I have to say it one more time, and learning how to do it from the people that know what's going on and have figured out this success formula. So this is a trend that I've seen recently. I haven't seen it throughout my entire career. The more and more sharing that we do, the better off we're going to be. So here's the challenge to you. If you're in construction and in your company, you know of a job that's kicking butt, or you went to a conference and you know of somebody that is on a project like that, or you've heard of a project even on a different company, go ask to tour that project. And this is an industry trend that will be game changing for us and allow us to leverage more and more success. Okay, so that is one part, and I'll cover this over and over throughout these podcasts, but that is one part to this that I'd like to mention today. Also, I do want to say that on Wednesday, our 2-week timeline is up. If you want to rate or review the podcast in whatever format that you want, if you do that and send that information to me, I will format a player card and send it back to you. And if you're waiting for yours, please give me a couple of days. I'll get the rest of them out. All good, no big deal. Here's some conflict for us today. Right now, we are not winning the war before going to battle, and that is the key. The best generals in the history of our world have won the war before going to battle. So let me tell you a quick story. I've said this before, but I'll give it a little bit of a different spin on it. When we were preparing the research laboratory, we were on that thing at least 8 months before we started the project. And I'm not ashamed about that. Some people are like, well, of course you guys did well and knocked it out of the park. You had plenty of time to plan it. I'm like, okay, so that doesn't bother me. Like, I'm super proud of that. That doesn't bother me at all. That's how you do it. We have to plan well enough in advance, bring trade partners on board, get a wonderful plan, align the team, and make sure that we have won that war before we step foot on the ground. I mean, that project was already won before we got our NTP. That's how we should be doing it. And there were other superintendents, the general superintendents of the company, that were like, hey, go do this job while you're not busy, or go do this small job, or go do that. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And I kind of made him mad, but I don't care. I was like, we are going to plan this the right way, and we're going to win. And every time we've tried that, every time not tried, every time we've done that, we've won. Every time there's been a superintendent or a PM or both planning a project in pre-construction and winning the war before going to battle, we have a remarkable job. That's playing out for me right now. One of the projects that I have dealings with right now had 3 to 4 months to plan it, right? That's not the full 8 months that I had, but 3 to 4 months, and they're going to finish right on time. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So pre-construction is crucial. And I got feedback one time. I said waste and variation are the enemy in construction. And somebody said waste and variation are not the enemy in construction. A lack of pre-planning is the enemy in construction. And so I'm like, okay, well, waste and variation are the enemy, and a lack of pre-planning is the enemy in construction. We can't just hit the ground running and expect to win. We can't go to war and then figure out how we're going to win. We have to win the war and then go to battle. So planning will multiply your effectiveness. A day in pre-construction will give you a week of success in construction. An hour in pre-con will give you a day's worth of success out in the field in construction. So today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to list out the steps that I follow when I'm planning a project that work every time. And I mean, it just works every single time. And where I get really inspired, I'll stop and describe it a little bit. And if you want more on this process, please reach out to me. And if you have projects coming up, you really need to follow this process. If you want remarkable success and if you want to implement lean. You cannot go implement lean halfway through and be delighted with the success. You will struggle somewhat if you don't set it up that way and write it in the contracts. So here we go. The first phase for me is the plan. The plan precedes all other aspects of the project, and I call it the first planner system because these are the first folks in the planning cycle. So, number one, create a project strategy. Now, that might seem, kind of basic, but what I mean by that is we don't go open up P6. We don't go open up Microsoft Project and get started. We need to instinctively open the drawings and go through them and really, like we're war generals on our war table, planning out logistics and access and movement and flow and the direction of our sequences and just create a project strategy. And so the first thing I would suggest in Precon is to get your master builders in there and first brainstorm on the overall strategy. Second, identify constraints. Now, I like constraints. Constraints are like, is there a building next door? Is there a difficult owner? Is there difficult weather? Are we in a difficult market? Do we have to do a certain sequence? Do we have other constraints? Constraints are things that are constraining your project. By definition, constraints are something that are constraining on a semi-permanent basis your project. So what are your constraints? Roadblocks are the things that we can remove that need to be moved out of the way. I wish lean construction would use the term roadblocks and leave constraints properly where they should be for things that are going to permanently or semi-permanently constrain your project. So you need to find out what are the things on your project that are going to constrain you around which you need to build your plan. Number 3, incorporate contract requirements. And this is something that is really overlooked a lot of the times. Even if you're in Precon, you can start asking for these things. So you need to incorporate your contract requirements. You're going to ask for the Division 1 specifications. You're going to get your boilerplate or your template or your prime agreement that you're going to execute eventually, or maybe you already have and you need to research it. It's still not too late. You need to know what you're going to be contracted to from a float standpoint, from a weather day standpoint, from a scheduling standpoint, the scheduling reports. Is it going to be man loaded? Is it going to be cost loaded? You need to know what you're contractually tied to. How dare we in construction ever bring forward a logistics plan and a schedule and our management plan and our estimate and all of these things without first researching what we're going to be contractually tied to? So that is step 3. Step 4, identify your flow, your sequence, and any breakout areas on the project. We need to put those into maps right away. In fact, I would say that you would have a Takt plan, which is the next one. You would have a Takt plan and your sequence drawings before you ever get into P6, before you ever get into Microsoft Project. So let's get on to step 5. Perform a Takt analysis of major phases of the project. That means foundation, structure, exterior, or interiors, and create a Takt plan. I've done podcasts on Takt planning. It's fantastic. It is step 1 before you ever crack open your CPM software. Okay, step number 6. Perform a day-to-day geographical analysis for needed areas. I cannot overemphasize this. This is a game changer. If you have a basement, you will need this. If you are in the middle of a number of buildings, you will need this. If you are in a complex area, you will need this. If you have a small footprint, you will need this. If you're on a postage stamp site, you will need this. What a day-to-day geographical analysis is where you take your mobilization, your excavation, your undergrounds, your foundations, basically getting out of the ground. You put that in a nicely formatted Excel template. I can give that to you if you want. You build your schedule, and then you go column by column on a daily basis, and you sketch out where things are going to be. Day 1, I have my pump here, my forklift here, my rebar laydown right here, my backhoe and my dump trucks here. Day 2, I'm not pumping today, but today I'm actually removing spoils. I have my backhoe here. You get my point. You draw out where things are going to be spatially, because production really comes from material access and access to the site in foundations, not from just a regular production rhythm. Okay, so a day-to-day geographical analysis, and you might have 90 of these. You might have 90 sheets that you print out. Go kill a tree, print them out, and every day you're drawing this out. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and you will actually see how fast you can actually get that work done because of spatial requirements. Number 7, define all work breakdown structures. Get yourself an outline first and foremost. Number 8, define activities for each WBS as a sequence, and do not try to compress the schedule to fit into a predetermined overall duration. Just get everything in the schedule. So what I tell new superintendents and anybody is go page by page and write your sequence. Just write it and write the durations and write the logic in there, and just go to the next page and go to the next page and go to the next page, and then enter all that data into P6 and then, or Microsoft Project, and then logic tie it later. Right now you need to figure out the sequences to the right level of detail, like a level 2.5 or level 3. Don't go too deep. That's for your last planner system, okay? Number 9, align all of your activities and logic tie them according to your sequence and your flow, and make sure your logic ties are sequenced appropriately and that they match your Takt plan from a crew tie perspective. Number 10, perform an analysis of the bottleneck activities. So we learn from the book The Goal, and from Lean Construction, and from This is Lean, we learn about throughput. We learn about flow efficiency, and we need to look at the trades that are going the slowest and see if they can be optimized, and if not, for most general areas, we need to even out or slow down some of the other activities to keep a rhythm, to keep a flow throughout the project, so our flow efficiency is at the right rate and that we have throughput throughout the entire system. Number 11, scheduling constraints and support systems in the schedule. So dry in, air on, MEP, weather constraints, things like that. It's time now to go ahead and put those in the schedule. Number 12, make a procurement strategy. Add in the procurement to the schedule. Any of your long lead items into the schedule, make sure those are in there. And then if you use a procurement log, make sure everything else is intentionally designed in the right log to support your systems. Now, this is super, super, super important. You are going to want elevators broken out in detail in your CPM schedule. You want all exterior systems, metal panels and curtain wall and glass detailed out in detail in your overall master schedule and tied to actual activities. And you want to start that effort of coordination in design development. You want to do that with complex stone. You'll want to do that with any other complex system that are long leads so you don't get in trouble. I can't tell you how many projects I step on site and everything is going well except for the exterior curtain wall. You'd think we would know by now that we have to start that at the beginning of the design development phase. Let's get that trade partner brought in early. Let's start coordinating. Let's get that schedule detailed out. Let's start vetting the design. Let's get glass samples together. Let's start working on the dies. Let's make sure that we're headed in a good direction for that, okay? Number 13. Consider any regional constraints such as weather or permitting or workforce capabilities, and let's make sure that's in our master schedule. Number 14, review the plan with a wider team and review safety and quality as a part of the schedule. Let's make sure we have your quality process plugged in there. Let's make sure that we have any, pull plans, any phase planning, milestones or triggers that you want in there. Let's make sure that we have quality in the schedule as needed, and make sure that we review that with the right departments, the right people, and the wider team. Number 15, get your procurement log up and running and tied to your project management software and to the schedule. Number 16, make sure that you start setting up procurement meetings and get, like I said, the exterior, the elevator, and other long lead items going in a good direction. Number 17, create a 90-day mobilization plan and get that first part of the schedule really detailed out and plugged in there with your pre-construction. And let me just say this, you will want to have design in there. And you will want actual sequence paths in there for your bid packages. And for each bid package, you need to make sure you have a permitting path, and you need to make sure that you have a procurement path, and you have a contracting path in each one of those, okay? And also a coordination path. So if you're talking about the interiors, we need to make sure that we're setting up, building information modeling and coordination and things like that for prefabrication. So all of those things need to be tied to your first 90 days and to the first activities that happen so that those can be expedited in the right amount of detail. Number 18, begin working on entitlements and permitting. You will want to make sure that you have a killer plan for permitting, and that if you have yearly reminders or updates that have to be done with permits, you put those in your schedule. Now, if this has seemed a little bit, rudimentary or basic, here's where we get into the great stuff. This is the phase that I call people and teaming. Build the team first. So step 1 with this is encourage the project team as soon as possible to have a superintendent on board and begin planning early. That's pretty self-explanatory, but we got to do it. If you're a company that doesn't have supers on the bench, that you're not always hiring supers and getting rid of the ones that aren't performing, that sounds harsh, but really vetting through your good supers and keeping some on the bench, you're going to have trouble with this and you're never going to conquer pre-construction. So let's get after it. Number 2, Design your trailers for collaboration, communication, and enjoyment. I cannot emphasize this enough. Right now, if you are doing precon for any project, your trailer design is one of the most important things you can do. Reach out to me for help. There are ways to do this, and there are ways not to do this. You cannot settle your team with a bad trailer, a bad environment throughout the duration of that project, and then expect to implement lean on your project. Step number 3, identify roles by role, scope, and geography. You need to create a project team organization chart that is focused on functional teams and clusters and scrum teams and communication teams that have proximity that can really win the day with their project. If you are setting up your project team where everyone's just by scope, or I'm just going to have a hierarchical system, then you're not setting up the project for success. The key for us in construction is communication, it's proximity, and it's a functional group between 6 and 9 people. We have to be organizing people by geographical area, by functional team first. Please make sure you have that in place. It is remarkable if you can do that. Step number 4, create leader standard work for all team members. Once you have everybody enrolled, we need to really detail that out. If you have any questions about leader standard work, I have podcasts on it and I can personally help you. Number 5, ensure the plan has enough time in the schedule to prevent a crash landing. So why is this in the people portion? Because there's a 20% difference, 10 to 20% difference between what we can sell in our industry and what we can actually build without hurting the team. And so some people logically put themselves in a box and they're like, yeah, there's a stipulated sum, there's a stipulated end date, we can't do anything about it. From a people standpoint, ask yourself, does this project have enough time in there to where we're not going to burn people out? And if it doesn't have enough time, consider telling the team ahead of time, making sure you have enough people there, make sure you have enough people on the team, and sign them up for a deal. Maybe give them a bonus at the end of the job when it's done because they know it's going to be difficult. Step number 6, the natural next step is to review your general conditions and your general requirements with the team before setting the deal and making sure that you have enough support systems in your project to go execute the way you want. And again, if you don't buy it out with your contract and if you don't set it up in your GCs and your GRs, you're not going to have the support systems to go implement on a lean site the way you want to. Okay, here's a perfect example. Step number 7, identify the project logistics foreman. You will rise or fall based on the quality of who is overseeing the site from a craft standpoint as your logistics foreman out there on site. We really need to make sure that we have the GCs, GRs set up to where we have enough field engineers, enough craft support, enough laborers, and then we need to go identify the key personnel and get somebody that can win for us in the field. Step number 8, start doing pre-construction pull plans with the design team and to make sure that we're doing pre-construction the right way from a schedule standpoint, a budget standpoint, a constructability standpoint, a coordination standpoint, and make sure that you're keeping your general contractor precon team and your trade partners on track with a good pull plan. And you know exactly, hey, this is when these contracts have to come out. This is when this bid pack's coming out. This is when this is permitted. This is when this coordination needs to be done. Make sure you have good pull plans to rally your people together to get the project started off right. Step number 9, create a respect for people plan. I can't emphasize this enough. Do you want nice bathrooms? Now's the time to plan for it. Do you want a nice lunchroom? Now's the time to plan for it. Do you want huddles? Now's the time to buy it out. Do you want lean systems? Now's the time to buy it out. Do you want morning crew preparation huddles? Now's the time to buy it out. Go figure out how you're going to structure your people to win with integration and with lean. Step number 10, begin a team balance and health strategy with the team. I have training for that. If you need help with it, reach out to me. In fact, I'll have an online learning series for this pretty soon. It's a fail-proof system, if implemented right, to keep your team in balance, healthy, going home properly to their families, and to make sure we have coverage throughout construction. If you need help with this, please let me know, but make sure you have a plan intentionally for team balance and health. Okay, here are some other ones that I'm going to go through quickly. The third phase in pre-construction from a builder standpoint is to win over the workforce. You know, how are you going to win over the hearts and minds of your people? And so here are the bullet points. 1, create a plan for on-site bathrooms. 2, create a plan for on-site lunchrooms. 3, schedule the start of your morning huddle systems and train your people on your project team to communicate properly in those huddles to the workers. Step number 4, make a plan for monthly barbecues, craft feedback, and any other workforce events, and make sure that's budgeted properly. Step number 5, design your trailers and interaction areas for worker enjoyment. So not just your trailers, but design them and your signage and everything on site for worker enjoyment, interaction, involvement, and participation as well. Step number 6, try to provide workers with the 30 minutes in the morning to set up their day for work. Buy those out in the contract if you can and if you're allowed. 7, provide smoking areas if possible. And if you don't like this, that's fine. I don't smoke, but there are a lot of people that do, and we need to give them smoking areas if it's allowed, unless it's prohibited by your owner. Step number 8, provide good parking on site. This is one of the biggest things you can do to keep your craft happy. Step number 9, provide accessible potable water and ice machines. Make sure that's planned. We need to get people what they need on the site, especially with COVID-19, and doing it the right way. Step number 10, decide on decorations for holidays and make work fun. How are you going to set up a family wall in your office? Are you going to bring in Christmas decorations, holiday decorations? Do you have a budget to make sure that you have the right amount of screens in there in the office, the right desks, the right things to create this feng shui, this environment, this hygge inside your office trailers? Now I'm going to go even faster. Here's the next phase: contracts and costs for culture. Buy out the behaviors that are needed on site. Step 1, modify all work exhibits or attachments to work orders that drive behaviors on site. Make sure you're buying what you want. Number 2, track all needed contract inclusions for site logistics and operations with your estimators. Step 3, buy out coordination efforts that will predict schedule success. That's in-wall coordination, that's BIM, that's prefab, etc. Step 4, buy out just-in-time procurement by area per the sequence drawings. This is crucial. This is critical. Step number 5, buy out the last planner system and lean methodology. Step number 6, ensure items about zero-tolerance systems are included in the contracts. Okay, now we're getting down to the last 2. We're at the home stretch here. The next phase is what I call the schedule, health, and right detail phase, where we need to maintain a schedule as a tool. Step 1, detail out all remaining portions of the project in your schedule. Step 2, enter in lift drawings, BIM, and other coordination efforts into your schedule. Step 3, detail out MEP, startup, commissioning, balancing, the life safety testing, and fire protection, and any of your life safety and commissioning items. Step 4, review and update your schedule for schedule health per your company's checklist. Step 5, perform an acumen fuse and acumen risk analysis and update the schedule. Step 6, identify your plan for the level of detail you want in your schedule so you can use the last planner system. Step 7, set up pull planning sessions to map out and detail phases at the right point to feed into your make ready schedules and into your last planner system. Here's the last part, the risk analysis. Project managers, directors, owners of companies, you're going to love me for this. Widen your circle and prevent risk by seeing the future. Step 1, use the template P6 or Microsoft project files for your schedules so that the typical company information is in there. Step 2, maintain a basis of schedule that contextually describes all of the nuances of the schedule so that that can become an exhibit for your contract. Step 3, maintain sequence and flow maps. And especially if you have comeback rooms or variation in your schedule that you need to communicate to trade partners, make sure that's on there and communicate that in your schedule exhibits. Step 4, get trade partner input and buy-in for the schedule when possible. Step 5, use production rates for activities that do not have trade input. That is key. Step 6, agree on milestones with the wider team and the owner. Step 7, perform an acumen risk analysis for the proposed baseline for your owner and make sure that you get that data so you can go into step 8, which is to hold a fresh eyes meeting with people outside of your team that can look at that project objectively and make sure that we have a great plan for that project to succeed. Step 9, establish a baseline with the owner. Step 10, back up the schedule monthly in PDF and XCR and snap baselines. Step number 11, perform your schedule health survey monthly and your monthly reports. Step 12, establish your owner interface and manage that strategy, manage that interface with the owner and update your schedule weekly. Now, there's a lot more to these pre-construction checklists, but this is what has to be done at a minimum. For me to feel comfortable that there's a basic plan that the estimate is based off of, that our constructability items are based off of, that our coordination is based off of, that anything we're doing is based off of. This schedule comes first. when it comes to cost, quality, safety, all of these things, your schedule, your plan comes first. How are you going to have an accurate estimate if you don't have an accurate plan? So if you're interested in any of these, if you are like, I'm not doing all that, please reach out to me for help, or just take this list, or I'll put this on an actual a blog post on my website so that you can have access to it. Because the current condition is we don't plan enough in advance for us to win the war before going to battle. So we plan to fail. So here's the challenge. Take the time during pre-construction to plan the project. Design all of your systems, not just the construction and not just the plan. Design everything about your job. Build the team before the team gets on site. Get help with precon if you need help, and have people on the bench doing this, meaning have supers that are available to come in, builders, PMs that can come in and build, or have a system where your project executives or your directors actually take the project from the beginning to the end with your general superintendents or your field directors, and they can stay with it from start to finish. The glimpse of the future for this, the vision for success, is that basically we win these projects before we ever, get out there and start work. Before we get an NTP, we have already planned this project where it can't fail. Now, a word of caution. No plan will ever sustain engagement with the enemy, but we can adapt to the enemy if we have a good plan. So keep that in mind. Let's win in pre-construction. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.